Whispers of the Forgotten Frontier. The dust of Kepler 452b hung like a copper veil over the research station's reinforced dome. Lieutenant Zara Novak watched the storm through the observation port, her fingers tracing the thin scar that ran along her left jawline, a memento from her last encounter with the planet's unpredictable terrain. 3 months into her rotation, and the isolation had begun to eat away at her composure. The station's crew of 12 had dwindled to 7, with 3 requesting emergency transfer and 2 simply disappearing during routine expeditions. No traces, no distress signals. Just silence. Her communication console chirped, breaking the monotonous hum of life support systems. Standard ping from the outer monitoring array, nothing unusual. But something about today felt different. The storm outside seemed to pulse with an unusual rhythm, almost like a heartbeat struggling to break free from the planet's rocky chest. Lieutenant Novak to maintenance, she spoke into her comm unit, her voice carrying the weight of exhaustion. Run a diagnostic on the external sensors. Something feels off. Technician Garrett Weber responded, his voice crackling with static. Already on it. But I'm not seeing anything out of the ordinary. Atmospheric conditions are stable, no electromagnetic anomalies. Zara's intuition disagreed. She'd learned to trust that feeling during her years in the Frontier Exploration Corps. It had saved her life more times than standard protocol ever could. The station's main research laboratory was a sterile environment of gleaming surfaces and complex equipment. Holographic displays flickered with incomplete data streams from various planetary probes. One particular screen caught her attention, a series of quantum frequency readings that seemed to dance at the very edge of comprehension. Dr. Imani Okoro, the station's lead xenobiologist, approached with a cup of synthetic coffee. "You're looking at those readings again," she said, not a question but an observation. "They don't make sense," Zara muttered. "These frequency patterns, they're too organized to be random, but too chaotic to be natural." Imani leaned closer, her dark eyes scanning the holographic display. "We've been picking up these anomalies for weeks. Normally, I'd chalk it up to equipment malfunction, but..." A sudden tremor ran through the station's foundation. Not violent, but deliberate, like something was reaching from beneath the planet's surface. The external monitoring system erupted in a cascade of warning signals. Proximity alarms blared, their red light painting the laboratory in a crimson wash. "Something's out there," Zara whispered, her hand instinctively moving to the quantum stabilization device at her belt. The storm outside seemed to part, revealing a silhouette that defied everything Zara understood about planetary geology. A structure, no, a vessel, emerged from the copper-colored dust. Its surface was neither metal nor stone, but something that shifted between states, reflecting and absorbing light in impossible patterns. "Impossible," Dr. Okoro breathed. Zara's training kicked in. Protocol demanded immediate communication with Central Command, full quarantine procedures, a measured response. But the scientist in her, the explorer who had left Earth seeking something beyond the mundane, saw an opportunity. "We're not calling this in," she said, her decision crystallizing. "Not yet." Technician Weber's voice crackled through the calm, "Lieutenant, I'm reading multiple quantum signature disruptions. Whatever that thing is, it's generating energy levels that shouldn't be possible." The vessel began to pulse. Not with light, but with sound, a frequency so low it was more felt than heard. Zara could feel it in her bones, a language that predated spoken communication. A message. Or a warning. As the structure continued to emerge from the planetary storm, Zara realized they were witnessing something humanity had dreamed about for centuries but never truly expected to encounter. First contact was no longer a theoretical concept. It was happening. Right now. And they were completely unprepared. The Resonance Protocol. The Celestial Horizon research vessel drifted in the impossible silence near the neutron star Phobos 7, its quantum stabilization fields creating a fragile bubble of livable space against the crushing gravitational forces outside. Dr. Rowan Vance pressed his palm against the quantum-reinforced observation window, watching the star's violent magnetic eruptions paint impossible colors across the void. 12 days since they'd received the encrypted transmission from Kepler 452b. 12 days of continuous analysis, and the data remained as incomprehensible as the moment it first arrived. "It's not a language," he muttered to himself, "it's something else entirely." The transmission defied every known principle of communication. It wasn't a signal so much as a resonance, a complex harmonic pattern that seemed to exist simultaneously across multiple dimensional frequencies. Traditional linguistic algorithms collapsed. Quantum decryption matrices stuttered and failed. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the vessel's quantum communications specialist, entered the analysis chamber. Her augmented neural interface glowed softly at her temple, a constant reminder of how far human technology had advanced, and how utterly primitive it seemed in the face of this new mystery. "We've tried 17 different decryption protocols," Yuki said, her voice carrying the edge of professional frustration. "Each attempt reveals fragments, but nothing coherent. It's like trying to understand a symphony by listening to individual molecules of sound." Rowan pulled up a holographic representation of the transmission. To an untrained eye, it looked like a chaotic web of intersecting light streams. But to him, it was becoming something more, a complex narrative waiting to be understood. "Look here," he said, manipulating the hologram. "These harmonic intersections. They're not random. They're structured, but not like any communication system we've ever encountered." The vessel's computer, an advanced quantum AI named Nexus, interjected. "Dr. Vance, analysis indicates a 0.003% probability that this transmission is of natural origin. Artificial construction is highly likely." "Artificial doesn't mean intelligent," Yuki countered. "It could be an automated system, a remnant of some long-dead civilization." Rowan disagreed. There was an intention to the transmission that suggested something more. Not just a message, but a conversation waiting to be understood. His research had always pushed the boundaries of xenolinguistics. Where others saw incomprehensible alien signals, he saw language, complex, nuanced, waiting to be decoded. His controversial theories about communication being more than just verbal or written exchange had made him something of an outsider in academic circles. A warning klaxon suddenly blared through the vessel. The quantum stabilization fields flickered, causing the entire research chamber to pulse with an ethereal light. "Nexus, report!" Rowan shouted. The AI's response was calm, almost too calm. "The transmission is attempting active integration with our communication systems. Defensive protocols are insufficient." Yuki's neural interface began to pulse rapidly, her eyes going wide. "Rowan, it's not trying to communicate. It's trying to." Before she could finish, the transmission erupted through every system on the celestial horizon. Not as sound, not as light, but as pure information, a wave of comprehension that threatened to overwhelm human perception. Fragments of memory. Glimpses of civilizations. Echoes of conflicts older than human consciousness. And at the center of it all, a singular, terrifying revelation. Something was coming. Something that had been waiting a very long time. Rowan felt the transmission integrate with his consciousness. It wasn't invasion. It was invitation. "We're not listening to a message," he whispered, understanding crystallizing. "We're being called." Outside the vessel, the neutron star pulsed in perfect synchronization with the transmission, as if the entire universe was holding its breath, waiting for a response. Shadows of convergence. The Deep Space Listening Outpost Sigma-9 wasn't on any official star charts. It existed in the liminal space between known human territories, a floating ghost of technological surveillance that most believed was nothing more than a rumor. Kai Nakamura knew better. As a Tier 3 intelligence operative for the Interstellar Strategic Analysis Division, ISAD, he'd spent the last 7 years monitoring the shadows between known space. His workstation was a labyrinth of quantum encryption matrices, holographic data streams, and communication intercepts that would make most intelligence networks look like children's walkie-talkies. Something was changing. The transmission fragments from Kepler 452b and the Celestial Horizon research vessel had triggered a cascade of anomalies that rippled through every communication network he monitored. Most would see random interference. Kai saw a pattern, deliberate, intricate, and terrifyingly precise. Ghost, he addressed the station's artificial intelligence, run correlation matrix delta 9 on the recent transmission signatures. The holographic display shifted, lines of data weaving into complex geometric patterns. Ghost's avatar, a translucent figure that shifted between male, female, and indeterminate forms, materialized beside him. Correlation reveals 97.6% probability of coordinated transmission origin, Ghost reported. Its voice was a neutral blend of tones, designed to be simultaneously soothing and utterly inhuman. Interesting. The transmission appears to be a multi-point quantum entanglement communication system. Kai's augmented eye, a replacement after a mission gone wrong 5 years ago, flickered with additional data overlays. Not just a communication system. It's a network. Something is connecting multiple points across different star systems. A priority alert flashed across his communication panel. Encrypted, multiple layers of security, the kind of message that typically meant someone very important was trying very hard not to be noticed. The sender code was impossible. It shouldn't exist. Kai's fingers moved across the holographic interface, breaking through encryption layers that would take standard systems decades to crack. Each layer revealed another level of complexity, like peeling back the skin of an impossible onion. Ghost, verify sender authentication, he muttered. The AI was silent for 2.3 seconds, an eternity for a quantum processing system. Authentication confirms origin from Temporal Observation Directorate. Last recorded active status, 87 years ago. The Temporal Observation Directorate was a myth. A conspiracy theory whispered among deep space researchers and intelligence operatives. An organization supposedly dedicated to monitoring potential timeline disruptions, created during the early days of faster-than-light communication research. The message was brief. Directive, Convergence Protocol activated. Threat level, beyond classification. Immediate action required. Communication network compromised. Kai leaned back, the weight of the message settling around him like a physical presence. Whatever was happening transcended standard operational protocols. This was something else entirely. We're not dealing with a simple communication anomaly, he said to Ghost. This is a systematic infiltration of our entire communication infrastructure. The AI's avatar flickered, momentarily showing multiple overlapping forms, human, alien, something in between. Correction, Operative Nakamura. We are not being infiltrated. We are being prepared. Outside the listening post's quantum-shielded windows, the darkness of deep space seemed to pulse with an impossible rhythm. Something was moving between the stars, something that had been waiting a very long time. And now, it was finally ready to make contact. The Horizon Dimensional Research Station hung suspended in a bubble of artificial reality, balanced precariously at the edge of what humanity understood as physical space. Professor Elena Reyes stood before a viewport that wasn't a window but a sophisticated quantum interface, watching reality fold and unfold like origami made of pure energy. 3 years of research had led to this moment. The anomaly they discovered wasn't just a tear in space-time. It was a conversation, a complex linguistic system embedded in the very fabric of dimensional boundaries. Each pulse of energy carried more information than entire libraries, communicated in a language that existed beyond human comprehension. Dr. Weston Gregory, her primary research partner, adjusted a series of quantum stabilization matrices. His hands moved with the precision of a surgeon, each gesture calibrating instruments that could measure the impossible. The last transmission is still reverberating, Elena murmured, her fingers tracing holographic data streams. It's not decaying. It's evolving. The research station was a marvel of human engineering, a massive sphere constructed from metamaterials that could shift their fundamental properties based on quantum observations. Superconducting rings generated fields that allowed them to exist in multiple states simultaneously, creating a research environment that defied conventional physics. The communication network we've intercepted, Weston said, it's more than a message. It's a network that exists outside traditional dimensional constraints. Elena's augmented neural interface began to pulse. Not an alert, but a resonance, something that felt like a thought just beyond the edge of understanding. The transmissions they'd been studying were changing her, subtly but definitively. A holographic representation of the dimensional anomaly filled the central research chamber. It looked like a living thing, tendrils of energy that breathed, pulsed, communicated. Each thread carried fragments of information, memories, experiences, entire civilizational histories compressed into quantum data streams. "We're close to something," Elena whispered. "Whatever is trying to communicate, it's not just sending a message. It's preparing us for something." The station's quantum AI, named Prism, interjected. "Dimensional integrity at 89.7% stability. Quantum coherence maintains structural integrity, but significant alterations are imminent." Weston looked concerned. "The last time we saw these energy signatures, 3 research teams simply disappeared. No traces, no explanations." Elena understood the risk. Every breakthrough in science came with a price. And this breakthrough was potentially the most significant in human history. Suddenly, the dimensional anomaly shifted. Not a movement in physical space, but a reconfiguration of reality itself. Fragments of potential timelines bled through, glimpses of worlds that might have been, could be, would never exist. A voice emerged. Not through speakers, not through traditional communication channels, but directly into their consciousness. "We have been waiting. You are almost ready." The research station began to vibrate. Not with mechanical stress, but with a fundamental resonance that suggested reality itself was preparing to be rewritten. Elena realized they were no longer just observing the anomaly. They were being invited through it. And the choice of whether to step forward was rapidly becoming no choice at all. Horizon's Requiem. The convergence chamber was not a place. It was a moment suspended between breaths, between thoughts, between the known and the unimaginable. Commander Victor Solarin understood this now. 63 years of space exploration had prepared him for nothing. Not for this. Not for the moment when humanity would realize it was not alone, and had never been alone. The transmission that had begun on Kepler 452b, intercepted by the celestial horizon, monitored by the Deep Space Listening Outpost, and decoded at the Horizon Dimensional Research Station, had been more than a message. It was an invitation. Around him, the representatives of humanity's most advanced research and military divisions stood in stunned silence. Lieutenant Zara Novak from the Planetary Research Team. Dr. Rowan Vance, the xenolinguist. Kai Nakamura, the intelligence operative. Professor Elena Reyes, quantum physicist. They were not here by chance. "We were selected," Victor said, his voice cutting through the silence. "Each of us was a piece of a larger puzzle. The chamber itself was impossible. Constructed from materials that shifted between solid, liquid, and something entirely theoretical, it reflected realities that existed simultaneously. Holographic interfaces showed multiple star systems, communication networks, and dimensional intersections, all pulsing with a single, unified rhythm. A communication that transcended language. A message that was more than information. A transformation. The alien consciousness that had been reaching out was not preparing for contact. It was preparing for convergence. "We misunderstood everything," Elena said, her neural interface flickering with impossible data streams. Communication was never about sending messages. It was about becoming. Rowan nodded. The transmissions were adaptive. Each interaction changed both the sender and the receiver. We weren't just decoding a message. We were evolving. Kai's augmented eye projected complex holographic matrices. The communication network was a catalyst. A way to bridge not just different species, but different modes of existence. The chamber pulsed. Not with light, but with potential. Zara spoke next, her voice carrying the weight of discovery. We thought first contact would be a moment. An event. But it's a process. A transformation that happens across generations, across entire civilizations. Victor understood now. The mysterious transmissions, the quantum anomalies, the strange communications, they were not random. They were deliberate. A method of preparing humanity for something beyond traditional understanding. A bridge between what humanity was, and what it could become. The chamber's walls began to dissolve, revealing not a room, but a vista of infinite possibilities. Star systems folded and unfolded. Dimensional boundaries became permeable. The very concept of communication expanded beyond words, beyond thought, into pure potential. We are ready, Victor whispered. And then, everything changed. Not with violence. Not with conquest. But with understanding. A new chapter of existence began.